Hi there. Welcome to the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. My name is Todd Rhoades. I'm one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com. And last week we started a series on things that we can learn from Scripture for us as church leaders and pastors and ministers from the Apostle Paul. And we've explored his transformation and his courage, his holistic ministry, his perseverance. And today we're going to look at another key aspect of his leadership, and that's his remarkable flexibility. His remarkable flexibility. If you've missed any of the episodes all last week, there's 5 of them here from last week. You can go and hit subscribe, and you can listen to those. I think you would find those hopefully encouraging and helpful as well. But today we're talking about Paul's flexibility. Paul was a master of adaptation. He was able to connect with diverse audiences. He was able to tailor his message to different contexts and adjust his ministry approach to really meet the unique needs of each community that he encountered. And he encountered a lot of different cultures and communities. In a world that's ever-changing with its social and cultural landscapes, this adaptability is crucial. It's as crucial now, even more crucial, maybe not, than what it was back in Paul's day for all of us as church leaders. So let's take a look. Paul's flexibility, it's pretty evident throughout his ministry. When he was with the Jews, he lived as a Jew, respecting their cultures and customs and traditions. And when he was a Gentile, when he was with the Gentiles, he lived as a Gentile, adapting to their cultural norms. He was a chameleon, not in his convictions at all, but in his methods. And we see this in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 through 23. Paul says there, talking about his flexibility, he said, "To the weak I'm weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. To do this for all the sake, I do this for all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings." This passage reveals Paul's willingness to meet people exactly where they were, to speak their language, to adapt his approach in order to effectively share the gospel. He didn't compromise his message, no way, but he was willing to change his methods to reach a wider audience. And he understood that the gospel's for everyone, but it needs to be presented in a way that's relevant and understandable to each individual. Now, just a side note here, this has been what the American church has been about, trying to find the happy medium between meeting people where they are and not compromising our message. And everyone kind of falls on a different place in that perspective, on that continuum. But Paul was a master at this. He knew how to do it. He knew how to speak to people according to what audience he was in front of, and at the same time, not waver in his message. So here's some encouragement and advice I think that we can learn from Paul today. I think Paul's example can really challenge us in ways that we can be flexible, in ways that we can be adaptable in our own churches and our own personal ministries. So here are some practical steps that I think we can take. And the first one is just know your audience, right? Take the time to understand the people you're trying to reach. What are their needs, their interests, their cultural backgrounds? Can you tailor your message and ministry approach to connect with them effectively? Now, some people have looked at this and said, you can't change. You can't. If you change the way that you talk, you're changing your message, but not. And let me give you an example. If you were teaching at a nursing home on Monday morning, and you were teaching to a group of teenagers and youth on Monday night, I bet if I played those tapes, I could tell which group you were talking to. And that's because you've tailored your message, not the message itself, not what you're saying, but you've tailored your presentation and your style to your audience. You need to know your audience. And so that's the first thing. And second, you just have to be willing to experiment. Don't be afraid to try new things and experiment with different approaches. Sometimes you step outside your comfort zone, and what's worked in the past may not work right now. And what works today maybe won't work in the future. So be willing to experiment. Develop some cultural intelligence. Seek to understand different cultures. This goes back to knowing your audience. If you're speaking in front of a group that you're not sure about, seek to understand them and know them before you start to talk with them. And then finally, stay relevant. And relevance, man, that's been a dirty word inside the church for some folks as well. But the world is constantly changing, and we need to be informed, not transformed into the world, but we need to be informed about current trends and cultural shifts and issues that are important to the people that we're trying to reach, because all of that has to go into our message and how we communicate. I can imagine Paul arriving in a new city and immediately observing the local customs and the styles of dress and the ways that the people interacted with each other. He was probably a pretty quick study, and then adapting his approach to fit in and build rapport with the people that he met. And it's just a reminder that effective ministry often requires us to be students of culture and to be willing to step outside of our comfort zones in order to reach people. So here's the bottom line for today. Paul's flexibility, man, it is a powerful example for church leaders today, just as it was a couple thousand years ago. In a world of increasing diversity and incredibly rapid change, we need to be willing to adapt our approaches and embrace some new methods, innovate a little bit here and there, connect with people on their own terms. Now, that just doesn't mean that we change our message at all. It does mean that we change how we communicate our message. So here's what I'd love you to do this week. Take some time this week to assess your own ministry approach. Are you stuck in a rut? It's easy to. A lot of us get stuck in ruts all the time. Maybe you're in one right now. Are you using the same methods that worked 10 years ago? Because they might not be the best method today. Challenge yourself to be more flexible. Challenge yourself to experiment with new approaches. Challenge yourself to find creative ways to connect with the people that you're trying to reach. All right, that's the word for today. I hope it's been helpful to you. Reach out to me anytime, podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. And tomorrow we are going to continue our series, the rest of this week, on the Apostle Paul. And I'm really excited to share some of the things that I think that we can pull out of Scripture, some character things, some things that Paul taught us through Scripture that can be really helpful to you in your ministry as you move forward this week and as we move even into this time of Thanksgiving and into the Christmas holiday. So I hope you'll join me again tomorrow right here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Have a great day.